Okay, so you're trying to sing with emotion, and people keep telling you to just feel it, and that's not cutting it. I've got a step-by-step guide for you for adding more emotion to your singing. The first thing you need to realize is the sound that you produce has already been decided long before it leaves your mouth. So trying to sound sad or sound happy is sort of the wrong approach. In truth, when someone tells you to just feel it, there is some point to that. It has to be a product of something that happens on the inside, right? But you need more than just feel it. You need a guide. And so that's what I've got for you here. So to start, let's try an exercise. Pick an emotion. I'm going to pick anger, right? And I want you to now think of a phrase that you might say that goes with that emotion. So I'm going to say the phrase, I am so freaking pissed. That's the phrase I'm going to say. But now I'm going to say it like I'm actually angry. And I'm going to go, I am so freaking pissed. Okay, so what do I notice about the way I produced that sound? Well, the first thing was the way that I breathed in. Did you see how I went, right? The way I just breathed in for that emotion was really different than the way I would breathe in if I was going to say, oh my gosh, I love you so much. The way I breathed in there it was much smaller, it was much calmer, right? So that's the first thing to notice is like, if you pick a phrase that you kind of resonate with that helps you tap into an emotion, how are you inhaling? Because the inhale is really going to determine your exhale, and it's going to determine the sound you make. So you want to notice, what is the quality of my inhale? Now you might just play around with that with a few different emotions, a few different phrases that help tap you into that emotion. Just let it be organic to you, right? Something that feels sort of natural, something that you might actually say. I'll try another one here. I'm going to try sadness now, and I'm going to use the phrase, oh my gosh, that just breaks my heart. That's something I would say if something was making me sad. And again, it needs to feel natural to you. So pick a phrase that feels like something you would say that corresponds with the emotion that you want to channel. Okay, so I'm going to say, oh my gosh, that breaks my heart. I'm going to go, oh my gosh, that breaks my heart. And again, I notice my breath in. It's much more calm and slower. And both the angry breath of, oh my God, I'm so freaking pissed, right? I did that one through my nose, and oh my gosh, that breaks my heart. Both of them I did through my nose, but the sad one was sort of like this gentler breath in through my nose versus the angry one was this really like aggressive breath in through my nose. So you might just try a few emotions and notice the difference in the way that you inhale, depending on the phrase that you're about to say. The next step in this process is to determine what's happening in the rest of your body and where it feels like the energy is centered. So I'm going to go back to the phrase, oh my gosh, I'm so freaking pissed. Or I'm just saying, I'm so freaking pissed. I'm going to say that again. And this time I'm going to notice like what's happening in the rest of my body. Oh, I'm so freaking pissed. Okay, I felt my whole core really like tighten and squeeze, and I even made fists. That's what I felt my body do. Now I'm going to contrast that against, oh my gosh, that breaks my heart. When I did that one, my core felt a lot softer. All right, so that's one observation I just made. It's like tight core for anger, loose core for sadness. Okay, and then I'm going to think about where does it feel like that the energy is mostly concentrated in my body. And this is a little bit more vague. It's a little more woo-woo. There's not really a right answer. You just want to feel like, where am I producing the sound from? And of course, the answer is always your throat, right? Like your vocal cords are always involved to a certain extent. So try to move beyond like your throat. But where does it really feel like the sound is coming from in your body? When I say, oh, I'm so freaking pissed, that feels like it comes sort of from like my solar plexus here, my upper abdomen. And when I say the phrase, oh my gosh, that breaks my heart, that actually feels, okay, so an obvious place would be my actual heart. And I do feel it a little bit there, but I would say even more, it feels like it comes from my lower abdomen down here, right? So you want to just try to pinpoint like, where is that emotion concentrated in my body? There's not really a right or wrong answer, but you do want to pick one so that you can then choose to sing from that body part to a certain extent. Okay, now how are you gonna apply this to a song? So now take the song and try not to have any preconceived idea of what emotion you want. Let it, this is gonna sound super vague and I will hopefully clarify, but let it reveal itself to you. What do I mean by that? Like, read the words with no preconceived idea of what it's about. Just read them out loud. Read them over and over again until they've kind of settled for you. And then as you're reading them, try to think like, okay, is there a story in this song? Sometimes songs tell story and sometimes they just emote, right? So is there a story? If the answer is yes, what's the story about, right? Sort of figure out, okay, what's the story about? And now what are the different emotions that might occur throughout the story? So maybe at first it's boy meets girl, they fall in love, right? That's sort of a happy emotion. Then things start to go bad, things get angry, things get tense, and then things fall apart and we're brokenhearted. Maybe that's the story of the song. So you've got multiple emotions layered in through there. So you want to pinpoint like what's happening in the song and which emotions are coming out at these different points in the song. Now, if the song doesn't tell a story, you might think about creating a little bit of a backstory for it, right? Especially if it's sort of vague poetry, you can create one that goes with it. Just let it be something that sort of resonates with you and makes sense with the words that are there. So read the words through a few times, let it kind of sink in, and then try to decide like, what is this song about? Why did the person who wrote this song write the song, and what are they trying to express? And does that feel authentic to me or does it not? And if it doesn't, is there a different spin you could put on it that does feel authentic to you and the way that you understand the words? Okay, so now you're ready to apply some of the tools from that first exercise to your song. You've pinpointed what the general trajectory of emotion is in your song. And there might just be one emotion or there might be multiple, but you've pinpointed where those emotions come up. So now if there's an angry moment in your song, you're gonna breathe in like you're angry. You're gonna hold tension in your core like you're angry. Whatever point in your body you pinpointed as sort of being the center of where your anger emanates from, you're gonna think about singing from that part of your body when you get there. And the sound that comes out is just gonna be the sound that comes out, right? And it's gonna sound angry because you are manifesting that in your body. Now, I will say, if you want, you can sort of take the inverse approach to this. So right now, we're saying, I don't care what it sounds like. I'm going to recreate the experience of anger in my body or recreate the experience of sadness in my body and let the sound be whatever it is. And in my opinion, that's going to create a really authentic sounding emotion in your voice. However, you can work backwards. You can work from the outside in. So you can think about when someone is angry, what does their voice typically sound like? Usually it's louder. So you might decide, I'm going to sing the angry section loud. Sometimes it even has some roughness, sort of like, because people are screaming. So you might decide, I'm going to add a growl to it. Or if you were trying to convey the emotion of vulnerability or of love or sensitivity, right? You might decide, okay, I'm going to use a little bit of a breathy sound there. That's another way you can approach it. It's in truth a little more concrete. But my argument is this: listeners are very sensitive to authenticity. And it's not something that we do consciously, but subconsciously, we gravitate typically toward artists and towards songs that are really genuine sounding. And so my opinion is that when you work from the inside out and let the sound be a result of recreating the emotion in your body, it's gonna come across a lot more authentic than if you work from the outside in. But you can try both and see what works for you. Work in both directions to move your voice into a space that is more emotional, more artistic, because that's the end goal, right? We want to express something. We want to be artists. We don't want to just be these powerhouses of good vocal technique. What's all that technique doing if we're not expressing something? So I hope that this helps you guys find a way to strategically incorporate emotion into your singing that still feels genuine and authentic. Happy singing.